going to touch on a topic that, first of all, I want to go down the smooth road here, if you will, to kind of smooth things over before I even get started, because it's a topic that kind of takes in a lot of folks, all kinds of different opinions, all kinds of different beliefs, and it really resonates with a lot of people, and it also gets things real upset and carried away in a hurry. This video today, guys, is not to ruffle any feathers, because there's a pretty strong message that comes with this. We are up against a lot of things in this country. Whatever your beliefs are on the pandemic, the virus, that's just a fraction of what we face right now as a country in whole. But one of the things that hits close to home with us is sportsmen, it's hunters in general, male, female, kids, everybody involved, is when it gets to a point where you have a state in the nation, and we're going to use Michigan. There's a few other states that are dealing with this right now as well, but we're going to use Michigan because my home state affects a lot of my viewers, affects me, affects my kids, my family, and we're going to chat about the future of Michigan hunting and how to go about doing that in this video without upsetting anybody. And I'm just going to put this right out here right now, guys. I don't have the time to fend off a bunch of nonsense arguing. There's a tab that I've got turned on my YouTube channel that deletes a lot of negative comments if it gets to that point. Discussion and you know, insight and ideas, opinions, I'm all for that. But the one of the topics that we're going to talk about right here is everybody has the question going into you know, upcoming seasons, is how do we get the state of Michigan to to excel? How do we get it to perform like a lot of other states in the nation? And it comes from a lot of people with great intentions. So to finish the first topic there, I really ask you to keep this clean. And if you have issues that you don't agree with, let's kind of do this in a civil manner, because I was in your shoes at one point where when I heard stuff like this, it ruffled my feathers real quick, because I thought I had all the right answers, and I thought I had a quick cure-all for the state of Michigan, because I had been able to go out and see what had worked in other states. And so let's chat about it, let's figure it out, because what has happened is, what stemmed this video. This video is not made to get a bunch of views and you know, make myself popular or make myself unpopular as someone that's actually talking about it. What has stemmed this video today is last week the Michigan DNR and the NRCS extended the law making process, or putting that in the books for next year, to the end of the month, to take in the more of the ideas and talk right to the general public, all hunters all across the state on all different platforms, and to get a lot of insight on what they feel that you know, where this needs to go, and how to get there with the likes of the Michigan residents. So a couple videos back, I kind of blasted the DNR on a few different topics. One with the bait and the CWD topic, that I feel that we've been kind of lied to, and I feel that we've been led astray, or just left open-ended. I still feel that that's a topic that needs to be handled. As any disease, whether it's ourselves right now dealing with a pandemic, or whether it's the deer herd, there's not a cancer or whatever that is that the topic is about, that you're chatting about. There's never really a cure-all. There's never a fix, an instant fix, and there's never a time that I'm not asking the DNR to come out and say, hey, if we do this with our laws, then it'll cure CWD and everybody's happy. Well, things don't work that way, and I understand that. But when you leave a hunting community that has so much power and so much passion as a state of Michigan, when you leave that hunting community just open-ended, and this, going back to that baiting thing, we won't go down that road right now because that's not what the video is about. But there's so many people doing their own thing. They've taken it, and some people are baiting anyway. Some people went to the UP because they can't bait in Lower Peninsula, and it's created some of this stuff that we're going to talk about is separation. So that's the topic of the day's video, guys. So let's dive into this. I've been asked many times, and that's part of this, is people reach out, and just as in, not that I'm anybody to answer any questions directly or I have all the answers, but when you're able to see, in my profession, when you're able to go across the country and you're able to see what works, what doesn't work, and what people, the biggest thing is what people actually feel about certain laws in certain areas. So folks reach out to me and they ask me all the time, hey, what do you think needs to get, what's your opinion? A lot of people don't ask my opinion. A lot of people just tell me their opinion on what needs to happen, and that's what they believe, and that's what needs to happen to cure it. But I'm often asked that question, what do you feel? Now I've caught a lot of slack. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've caught a lot of slack about my opinions, my beliefs. But it's something that I just did not come up with or start believing overnight. And as you can see in this video, I've already started talking about is my old way of thinking was when I moved back from the state of Illinois. That's one of the pinnacles in our country for deer hunting. It might not be as good as some other states, but they as a state do very well with deer hunting. And they so that coming from that, being born and raised here, first of all, moving to a state like Illinois and spending 5 years there, and then coming back, 4 years there, and then coming back, I got to see what works and what doesn't. And when you move back to a state like Michigan, it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating to watch a state, what I felt at that time, kind of self-destruct. And I've always told everybody that there's nothing that the state of Illinois has that Michigan doesn't have, but the only thing we don't have is management, and that's the missing key to put Michigan on the map, to really to put us there as far. The quality deer here, guys, the genetics are here, everything is here except the management. Well, that management word comes with a lot of fuel. It comes with a lot of heated topics when we're dealing with these things we're going to touch on. So in this video, keep an open mind. Know that I have some experience in this as far as seeing what works, what doesn't, and also know that I have been in your shoes about just having that fire from the hip approach with folks, and go right after and blame the DNR and this is never going to work and this is what needs to happen kind of approach. There's a lot of moving parts to this whole scheme, this whole spectrum, and so what I have done is I've taken myself the last couple of years, the older I get, and the more I stop and think about this stuff, and I hope that shows through on my other topics on my videos that I do here on my channel and through my business. But the older I get, the more that I start doing some more research. I start investigating more things. I start trying to connect certain people to why things aren't happening, or who's involved and who it's hurting or who it's benefiting. So I ask you to do that during this. So the number, and these are numbered, but we're going to go through these and bounce back and forth on them here, of course. But the number one thing here, guys, that I've listed is how to cure that. So that pertains to that what I was talking about. I've been asked how to cure this, what I feel is a cure. It starts with, to me, it starts with a few things here that a lot of folks don't usually start this conversation with. Usually this conversation starts with APRs, it starts with tag mandates, it starts with a whole bunch of law enforcement kind of things to make this happen, but it doesn't start with the the bare roots. And that's what I've found myself over the last few years, guys, going back to and really digging deep here. And we're gonna chat about that. And I think at the end of this, maybe this will touch some heartstrings with you guys. The biggest thing that I see is discontent. Now, someone that does what I do, if there's anybody watching this that it does some consulting or does some habitat management at all, even planting just food plots or whatever the case is, you'll know that discontent is at my forefront all the time. And the reason that is if you're when I say this, I've already just stopped myself, and it makes you kind of cringe, is when you use the word industry, it starts putting people against you right off the bat. And that's sad. That's a different video. But discontent all around is kind of focused at a whole bunch of us. It's all there. This discontent word right now in the state of Michigan, I feel that the state of Michigan and a few other states that tie to this, Wisconsin's one of them that's going through a lot of this right now, but there's many states in the nation, but we're talking about Michigan here. But the discontent, I feel right now, guys, that as a whole, as all hunters, whatever your beliefs are, if you buy a tag, we're talking, deer hunting here. If you buy a deer tag, you are involved in this conversation. I'm taking everybody into this, and the discontent is so diverse right now that I've never seen that at a level that it's at right now. And so when you start trying to change a law or a way of life for the better, the discontent will eat you from the inside out. If there's anything that we've learned, that I've learned, hopefully a lot of people have learned in 2020, is that you will never excel or you will never succeed being divided as a country. That's a huge thing right now. I think we can all agree on that. But when we're trying to talk about how to put Michigan on the map as far as deer hunting, right now we are destroying ourselves. We are fighting amongst ourselves, and social media is the demon, is the devil in my eyes. That's separating everybody. For years and years and years, guys, everybody had their own opinion, and this goes in life. But everybody had their own opinion. Everybody had their own ways of hunting. Everybody had and we maybe it just felt like we dealt with it. That old thing, if you had a problem and neighbors didn't agree on certain things, then they talked about it. Well, now there's no talking. People get on, like I'm sure I'm going to get some of these. People get on social media platforms and they just blast each other. This discontent column here, or point, I guess, guys, is huge right now. So to me, we got to start hearing this discontent with the state as a whole, as far as deer hunters, and we have to understand that there are many different layers of a deer hunter that make the word deer hunter, and that encompass the management word. So I ask you to keep your mind open when you're trying to figure out a way to do this, and you're chatting with people, you're chatting about family members or with family members about how to do this. I really ask you to as a state here, we have to really start fixing this discontent, and that points into the next topic here is hunter shaming. Discontent and hunter shaming, I guess, go hand in hand, but the hunter shaming part of it is right now we have guys that folks, hunters that like to they won't shoot anything. I myself, I just don't harvest anything that's not mature, 4.5 years or older, no matter where I'm at in the country, not just here in Michigan, but I'm blessed to be able to travel because of work, and I'm blessed to be able to hunt different states, or have hunted different states, and will hunt different states in the future. And that's my choice. Now, the old me kind of tried to force feed a bunch of people into doing that, and over the years I've really pulled myself away from that. We all, I think, you see that a lot as far as a hunting nation. praising, new hunters. If your spouse, let's say a female, your wife, your mother, whatever the case is, that you get into hunting, we do a pretty good job of promoting, first buck kills and keeping that content. But when you get to a certain point in a male-dominated sport like this is, this runs rampant, and the problem with it is it takes so much focus off the rest of the good of what's trying to be accomplished at a state level, at an area level, wherever that platform that you're on, that you're trying to cure this problem. This hunter shaming and discontent will just, like I said, it eats that from the inside out. It just destroys it. So another point there is that hunter shaming is just if a hunter decides that management is not for them, a lot of that has to do with way more than what as somebody from the outside looking in, has way more to do with that. Maybe it's a passion that keeps them in the woods because of their that's the way that their father used to hunt that's no longer here. And I see that time and time again where those folks that are shamed just go into a corner. You force that whole group of folks into such a corner where they take it and they take it and take it, and then they're ready to fight. And then what happens is that's when all the social media platforms explode, everybody's at each other's throats, and in the meantime, nothing is getting accomplished. And it sounds trivial, and it sounds kind of like I'm being a parent here, telling everybody to get along, but that is the God's honest truth, that we are killing ourselves from the inside out. So hunter shaming, whether somebody kills that buck, whether somebody kills a buck that never makes it to the wall, whether that's that deer gets thrown in the shed and doesn't mean anything other than the harvest and just the meat. Like I said, there are so many layers to what makes a hunter and what encompasses that management word, that it's our responsibility, I feel, that it's time to step up as sportsmen and women across this state and understand that this right here, this first topic, is what is going to continue to always destroy this state, unless there's a way to handle it. And I think the way to handle it is just to finally stop and start being adults about this and start realizing what we are dealt with as a state. We are never going to be in Illinois. We're never going to be in Iowa. We're certainly never going to be in Kansas. But can we better it? Can we run up against Wisconsin that's leaving us behind? I truly believe that we can. But here are the ways that we're going to talk about some stuff here. The regulations with the DNR. So the regulations with the DNR right now, you have to give credit where credit is due. I'm a lot of times I even find myself, the other couple videos back, the DNR I feel have left us stranded here in the state of Michigan on some unanswered questions with the CWD, with the baiting. You're able to buy it, you're not able to use it. Is CWD as bad as they say it is? Is it not? I don't know, maybe it's because of the pandemic, because of whatever's going on, but I feel like there are and I'm not the only one, that feels like there are a bunch of questions there that we want answered as sportsmen. Now, we're not asking for a miracle. What we're asking for is support, and we're asking for numbers, because when you're at a DNR, NRCS level, my opinion is when you're at that level and you don't finish things and you leave open-ended topics, and you leave open-ended unresolved health issues with a deer herd that influences the way that folks hunt, is you just keep piling all this, guys, that goes back into discontent and hunter shaming. That's the reason we don't get along, is because the DNR sometimes hasn't stepped up to the plate, I feel, and hasn't cured some of that as far as answers. And then you can take it from there. But here's the answer. I think there's a lot of unanswered questions right now. But we're giving credit where credit is due. This week here in the state, I was actually not shocked, but I was actually happy to see that this happen. The state right now is extending the question and answer segment, I guess, if you will, or the time period to the end of the month where before they set a bunch of rules into place for next deer season, they want to know the hunter's input, and that's great. I think you got to give, like I said, give credit where credit is due. We have to work hand in hand with them because obviously they are the ones that write the final note on the page, and us as hunters in the state of Michigan, no matter where you're at in the state, you know, and the UP is believe it or not is still part of the state of Michigan. So anywhere in there, we have to all get along. We have to understand that that's the law. We have to abide by the law that's there. And now they're giving you an opportunity to go out and voice your opinion. Now, I've already had the comment, well, they've already got it on the books and they've already got the legislators already signed off, and this is already a done deal. They're trying to save face. Well, guys, that might be true. The reason that folks feel that way, if there's anybody with the DNR that's watching this, is because that's happened in the past. Because that has happened at a state level in the past where it's been proven that some of these topics have, you know, some of these meetings or when we were able to all gather in certain areas, you know, and have these conferences, there's a lot of that has happened that it's already been done. There's a lot of stuff that's been done behind closed doors, and that's why you have the people not believing in the DNR right now in the state of Michigan, which contributes back to more discontent and more hunter shaming. And it's a separation. So the DNR have stepped to the plate, and they're willing to take some insight or opinions on what needs to happen. So let's dive into here. Let's dive into a couple of things, and this is where it gets sticky, gets heated. But let's dive into a couple of things on what I feel that are separating the state and what's going to work and what's not. At the forefront of all of this right now is that abbreviation that everybody loves to hear or hates to hear is APRs, antler point restrictions. So let's give a little background on APRs. What's an APR? An APR is an antler point restriction that controls what you can and can't shoot in an area. So that right there is something that we need to chat about, guys. I feel right now where we're at as a country is that when you have a government that's trying to mandate and force feed, and I'm not saying that, you know, if you don't believe this or you believe this, wherever you stand with the political side of it, that's fine. I've got clients and friends on both sides of it. But where that goes is where you have the government trying to force feed law down people's throats. We as maybe conservatives, as a you know, more so than the other side of the fence, we don't like being told what we can do and what we have to do in a free country. That's why we have the Constitution. That's why we have freedom. That's why we have what we have. Well, there is a kind of an unwritten constitution, if you will, in the state of Michigan as far as deer hunting, as far as I'm concerned. That's a great way. I've always kind of used that term as the Constitution of deer hunting, because it's been such a heritage, such a passion for so many people for so many years that it's kind of a constitution. It's kind of written in the books, you know. So by trying to mandate changes, APRs, and force feeding people to do what you believe that you want them to do, and the idea of an APR, guys, I understand that it's trying to advance the age structure. I get that, but what happens is you create so much discontent, and it puts so much focus on antler, APR, the antler point restriction. It takes all the value of trying to change the thought process or the education level on age in a state of Michigan with deer herd, and it takes all that. So I'm not an APR guy. I'm going to tell you that right straight out. A lot of you already know that. And the reason is I'm not an APR guy because I don't think that it would help. I just don't believe it's the right moral step to do, especially to a state such as Michigan. Now we're going to chat about my experiences with how did I come up with that. I was involved in that, and not on a state level, not on a law level, but I was involved in all that as time level in the state of Illinois, where that's in the end of the 1990s. When that was in the early 2000s there, when they were trying to come up with that strategy, there was a certain group, a certain quality deer management group that was trying to force feed that into those areas to get that to happen even better than what they already had, which is way better than a lot of the country than they've already have down there. And what happened, guys, is it created so much of this that it would blow your mind, the stories that I could tell you, because we were on the side of it as the outfitters, so we were involved with the landowners, which were involved with the hunters, and so we seen it firsthand. And I've seen that in other parts of the country, not just Illinois, but that's one of them. And it creates so much discontent because it starts at the base, which would in that situation is the landowner. And the landowner then has to tell the outfitter what they can't, shoot, or the state tells them that they can't shoot. And it's this big government mandated. You have to do what I tell you to do, or your ways aren't to be withheld, because there's no value in what you believe if you don't believe what I believe. And that just continues to add to the discontent and the hunter shaming in the state. So why is there no APRs in the state of Illinois? Why is there no APRs in the state of Iowa, Kansas, the states that are booming with their deer, their quality deer? Why is that? And because it doesn't work. It's because they have proven that down the road, years and years and years, that it doesn't work. It does not get you to where most people think that it would get you for mandating a non-restriction on a restriction on a don't shoot idea, a platform, and that is it's a myth in the hunting world as far as regulations. The APRs don't get you there when you're talking about a high number state or a deer hunting state in general. Where did our APR start from? APR started out west in the idea of APR started out west in huge land lots areas where it was actually a state. It was actually a state idea or a government idea that they had, so they could take certain blocks of BLM or certain areas out there of state ground or federal ground, and they could advance the quality of those elk herds, let's say, or deer herds in that area, and they could make that elk herd advance so the outfitters, so they could charge the outfitters more money to lease that. And then the outfitters would in turn charge more money to their clients, which would in turn bring a higher paycheck of people, if you will, an income of people to certain areas, and all of that. That's where your governor tags and all this comes into that. It was all started by the government to begin with. It wasn't started. An APR was not started by a quality deer management group that just pulled an APR out of their hat on whitetails. It didn't start with whitetails, and it won't end with whitetails. It was it was started way before that, and that's where that is because so they can, and that's where it needs to stay, in my opinion, is because if you want to step up into that world and you want to go hunt one of those areas, maybe it's a lifetime trip that you want to go kill a 400-inch bull or have a chance to kill a 380 bull or something out west. There's areas out there that you can do it. There's outfitters that you can do it with. There's public ground areas that you can go out there and you can advance your hunting strategies or your skill to try to get you to on those critters. That doesn't work in a area in the state of Michigan where there's 52 counties and there's 660,000 deer hunters and there's 660,000 different ideas that all come into that. It doesn't work. So it might sound good up front, but the discontent that it causes, it way outpowers the outcome of that restriction. Now you ask, I'm always asked, okay, well, prove it. Then how prove it that it doesn't work? Well, here's one of the examples this year. Let's use my experiences this year. I've got 2 weeks left here in our season. I have passed out now 12 passes this year to immature bucks, and I that's something that I choose to do. I don't I don't hunt or harass anymore. I don't cause that discontent anymore on folks that don't want to do that. I look at it as it has to fuel my fire more. If I'm in an area that I want to hunt in or that I own land in and I would like to try to advance that, it's my responsibility to go out there and try to get that done myself along with my other hunting companions or my neighbors in an area that want to do it. But to mandate that and force feed that doesn't work. So we're going to get back to my experience here. So this year there's 12 passes handed out. Nine of those were on a 1.5 and 2-year-old bucks, and 2 of those were on 3.5-year-old bucks. And right now, going into the end of the season, in an area, and all of those were in restriction areas, by the way, and or at least one tag was restricted. There's 3 deer, 3 immature bucks left, 1 mature buck, 3 immature bucks left out of that encompasses a 50-mile radius. So why? And the reason is the majority of those were 8 points. So when a hunter sees they have an antler point restriction in their head that's what they have to shoot, that doesn't go any further than that than an antler point restriction. So you are still harvesting 2.5-year-old deer. So there's proof that I'm just one of those that has experienced this year. That I'm just one piece of the puzzle out of 660,000 pieces in the state. I'm just one of those pieces. So if you start digging into that, you will see that reoccurring time and time again. The other thing, guys, is so that's my belief on the APRs. I don't think that's the way to get there. I don't think it's a moral standard. I don't think that it's the driving that thought and pushing that. And what you're seeing, guys, is, mark my word, you're going to see the state of Michigan start reversing the APRs, is because it sounded good. It sounds great for some areas, but it's not great for everyone. And it causes so much of this discontent that there's a certain quality deer group that tries to enforce this because they want it done now. They want that done now. They want the state of Michigan to be on the map, and they want to be, able to have that. And guys, that's great. I understand that you want to kill bigger deer in the state of Michigan, but by mandating that with an APR is not the case. You're going to start seeing the DNR pull back on that. There is a huge group right now, a huge business. I'm not going to name any names, but I know this firsthand. There's a huge business right now that dumps a lot of their business, of their money, used to dump a lot of their money into a organization such as the QDMA. They are many of those, but one is a huge business, multi-million, billion-dollar business that dumps a lot of that into there, and they are pulling. So they put a lot of their money into that program to help structure the state, or give ideas coming from a large number of people. They are now pulling away little by little by little, and that comes firsthand from one of the corporate representatives. They're pulling money away from that just as fast as they can pull it, because they're getting such a discontent. They're getting so much hate because that's being such a driven down people's throats, that they are pulling their money away from that program. So what you're going to see, I hope to see that program, and there's a lot of good in that program, and I use that, and I'm not afraid to use the QDM slogan, or the abbreviation, because I know a lot of those folks. I work with a lot of those people. A lot of my clients are members of that, and that's great. They do a lot of great things, but when it comes to a point where they're starting to act as a government, to me, that right now is kind of like Facebook. In our world that we're in right now, Facebook is trying to censor everything. They're trying to help mandate this. They're trying to mandate that. Social media platforms in general, but they're one of the powerhouses. But they're trying to take all of this stuff and tell us what we have to do, and that organization is becoming that platform, or that aspect on the whitetail world. So I hope they recover, because when I was involved in that, when I was a member of it, when we had the retreats, and we had the conventions, and we had that stuff, and I was involved on that level of it, when I met those guys, or the people that do it on not only the chapter side of it, but the national side of it, they have great intentions. They're deer hunters. They have a passion for deer hunting. I get it. But it's never going to get. It's never going to cure itself by forcing mandates. One other thing that I wanted to add, I really feel that there's a missing point to the puzzle, is one thing that I really believe that helps a state be successful, that puts the finishing touches on a state, because of a lot of things that tie to it. But one of the main things is it helps give the DNR and the law makers, the NRCS and the DNR, proof to go off from. Right now, I feel that that's something huge missing in the state of Michigan, that they don't. It's a kind of a joint venture from what has happened in the past. Maybe some past experiences in certain areas, and there's no really hard factual way to come up with deer numbers, the harvest of the deer, what was shot where, and to really get a census at the end of the year, if you will. In that, we're going to add that on the board here as the number 4 topic, as 4 being mandatory check-in stations. So I wanted to add that in there is because that's something that we had in the state of Illinois that I feel very strongly about, has got that state and many other states that have mandatory check-in stations, especially during the gun season. You have 24 hours to check an animal in, and with a bow, there is, let's say there's 2 counties, and each county has, or there's a county, each county has 2 check-in stations. So with during the archery season, you can go into there and you have to check that animal in within 24 hours of recovery. And what that does, it gives a hard number of what was shot. They don't have to age it. They just have to check it in. Was it a buck or a doe? If there is somebody there that's capable of, kind of age sourcing it, young, medium, old, whatever the case is. But that gives a hard number to work with. And what it also does is it also promotes business growth in them communities, in those 2 or 3 check-in stations. Now, to people to get in, to go in there, check those deer in, whether it's a buck or a doe, check those deer in, and then you also get a badge. You get, but it brings money and revenue. It brings money and revenue into those businesses in those local communities, and I think that's huge. It's not a lot, but it helps. I mean, if you do the math, if the numbers can consistently continue, and that's a lot of traffic into local businesses to help those convenience stores or restaurants that check those critters in. And during the gun season, what is a huge success in Illinois is they have a lot less days of hunting in the state of Illinois, which I think is something that can be chatted about too. Total gun hunts, days of hunting. But what it is you have to, it's a check-in station, but they do those check-in stations during the gun season in the county seat, or a couple of areas just like that. But it's usually done not at the store. It's like 2 locations, let's say, in the county seat. And those check-in stations during the gun season are held in a couple different spots throughout the county, such as the check-in stations during the archery season are. But they hold the gun season check-ins at like your county seat, maybe wherever the there's a town square, or there's a nice big open parking lot that is in an area where folks can come in, easy to get in and out. By doing that, it connects the state level mandators, if you will. It connects those with the people that are hunting. And what you'll see is those out-of-state, or in those states that have a high number of out-of-state hunters, it also puts the out-of-state hunters in connection with the local hunters, and it also promotes the growth of the connection between the state and the hunter. So I think that's a huge deal. I really believe that you can't. It's like a lot of anything. It's hard to manage unless you have hard, concrete evidence or concrete facts. So I just wanted to add that in there. I think that the mandate, the number 4 here, the mandate check-in stations, is something that would take Michigan over the top. And the gun one is huge for me. And the reason that is what happens is it's a way to connect people. And there's no, you go to those check-in stations like in the state of Illinois, guys, and there's residents, there's non-residents, there's big bucks, there's little bucks, and no one is, combating each other. I'm sure there's been a couple push and shove matches along the way. Anytime you put people in any setting together, there's going to be some of that, but it doesn't feel. It feels like a point of connection. It feels like a big buck night. Everybody talks about their bucks. They're all lined up, tailgate to tailgate. You pull up, you get the one checked in. So, there'll be 40, 50 cars pulled in a line, and then, you just continue one personal drive, and you continue to get out and look at everybody's bucks. What that does is that promotes a whole slew of things. That takes out the disconnect, that takes out the hunter harassment, that connects people that may not realize that there's that potential of deer out there to harvest, and it connects them with who's doing it right there, and they're able to communicate. It's a huge piece of the puzzle that I really think I feel very strongly about is that mandatory check-in station. One of the biggest hurdles that I feel that the state of Michigan has is the rifle or gun season in general. The gun season, we're just going to throw them all together and chat about all the gun hunts here. I guess we'll pick them apart a little bit, but not just talking about rifle hunts and shotgun hunts, but the number of days that it's such a tradition. The number of days that take in what is so sought after in the state of Michigan, and such a tradition is we start November 15th. No matter what day of the week that falls on, it's November 15th, and it runs to the 30th. That's our normal gun season. If you're in the southern part of the state, you can use a shotgun. If you're in the northern part of the state, you can use a high-powered rifle. Now, southern part of the state, I think they've got it right down there because of the population. Folks ask me, should we be able to hunt down there? If it's a gun hunt, shouldn't we be able to hunt with any gun that we want? I don't believe that's the connection. I think that's been tested and tried and true over the years, and I think that shotgun in those areas where you got a lot more potential for somebody, that long range availability of a rifle to reach out and potentially injure somebody or kill somebody. None of us want that as a hunting community. So to keep that down there in the southern part of the state as shotgun, that really gives you the experience of the Midwest as far as the lower number of hunters, better deer because of that, because of less pressure. And if you're able to hunt southern Michigan, I would love to be able to hunt southern Michigan consistently. Have in the past years ago, but would love to find a spot down there and invest in a shotgun and make that part of the arsenal. But I've luckily got other places to hunt that's up here and around the country. But the high-powered rifle part of it is good in the northern part of the state where it's at. The thing that one of the things that I don't agree with and think that it would really help the state of Michigan is understanding that when you reach a certain number of days with guns in general, but high-powered rifles, you cross over a hurdle of not being able to manage the age structure of deer when and where folks want to do that. It makes it difficult, and this goes out to both sides. But to the folks listening to this that want to manage, I feel your pain because it is something. I'm born and raised here, went down to the Midwest, and then coming back, and it's down there. They don't not only have less gun days, they have less of a weapon to reach out and kill something. You can't shoot 300-400 yards down there like you can up here with a high-powered gun. But that's kind of like the southern part of the state. So I think that one of the things I've always thought that would work, and this is because obviously, like a lot of this is because I've experienced it, is to take the gun season and just keep it on November 15th, so you keep that rich tradition of the 15th, and run it until keep it in for 2 weeks. So you've got 2 full weeks of hunting, and then that's the end of it. So if it's just shy, if we were to lack a couple of days or whatever, it wouldn't be such a drastic change. But it's 2 weeks of the gun season. And there's just so many people in the state of Michigan in that 660,000 number, that circle, if you will, that bubble, that don't bow hunt, that rely on that or look forward to that. So we don't want to take that away. I think where it starts getting too much is not the normal gun season. So that's what I would do, is I would take it and make that two weeks, make it 14 days, end of that, wherever exactly that day hits after the 15th. That's the end of gun season, no matter if it takes in 3 weekends, 2 weekends, what the case is, it's 2 weeks, cut and dry. And then, so we're kind of talking in reverse here, but then go forward to that, give the critters and everybody in general time to go back home, spend some time with the family, and then the weekend following the first week of December. So you might have a week window, 2 week window, however that would fall depending on the year. We then start that muzzleloader season the first weekend of December and make it a 4-day muzzleloader season. It would start on a Thursday. It'd be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and that encompasses the entire state. That's from the state line, the south of the state line, all the way up through the entire state. Now, some things that we're going to touch on that are going to kind of rub some people the wrong way is I think that we've lost, the southern part of the state is experiencing this more than what we are up here because of the new law of last year, where there really isn't a muzzleloader season in the southern part of Michigan anymore. And that's sad. That's really sad, because that helped in the areas, and for the people that wanted to do that, it really helped to get those, to help advance those bucks to the next year that weren't harvested during a high pressured gun season. But on the other hand of that, the guys that don't want to manage or don't have a certain size that they're after, what that's done is that was there's a lot of people in that love to primitive hunt. They love to take the Thompson-centered contenders. It's just that raw. Everybody has seen them. They've seen the old Hawkins muzzleloaders, the old hex barrel, open sights. Loading that power, that hang fire, and there was so much that was looked forward to, and I was one of them. And it's gone. It's taken that piece of the heritage of Michigan and totally flushed it in the toilet, if you ask me. Like I said, up here, so down there they were able to use any straight wall cartridge or any rifle. You could use a rifle. So in other words, it just extended the gun season, which is to me was the last finish in the coffin for the guys that, or the areas, the hunters in the southern part of the state that wanted to advance their hunting and see better deer. It pretty much just put a nail in the coffin on that. And I don't think that, looking back at it over the years, I don't ever remember that being a sought after, like the folks that didn't want to manage, or the folks that that are okay with harvesting younger deer. I don't ever remember them begging for a extended rifle hunt, or being able to use their rifles or the guns the entire time of the year. And so I feel for the southern part of the state. That was one thing when they made that mandate, I just shook my head, or made that law, I just shook my head, because that's I'm hoping that's one thing that they really review, and some folks during this time period that I was talking that they're giving us, to really call in and go over that with them, because I think that's something that they need to revisit. It's okay to own the new straight wall cartridges, and they're all cool, don't get me wrong. We're all gun lovers and owners, and a lot of us, but I don't see that fit in now if we were talking a totally different state with lower numbers, and you're finding ways, you're getting creative about ways to keep hunters in the woods and giving them more opportunity, then by all means. But that's not the case in the state of Michigan. We had plenty of those days for everybody to succeed, and the bow hunters and the gun hunters, there's that arm wrestling match, but it was never such discontent as it is now, is because now what you've got the gun hunt that is totally extended. So let's review this. You've got 2 days of a youth hunt. My opinion is, that's another heated topic, but my opinion is on that is the youth hunters. I really don't believe, guys, there's any other perfect time for that youth hunt to happen in the state of Michigan. It's perfect where it is. We need the kids to have that connection with us and the outdoors. I think that's a great time period for it in September. I think that always keeping it around the same days would be good instead of this year it was like 2 weeks early. I think it's kind of like the opener of the 15th. We should pick that, that date and at the end of maybe the end of September and run with that every year and make it a two-day season. So you've got 2 days of the youth hunt. And in those 2 days of the youth hunt, I think that that's the time to open that up as a hunting introduction and or youth hunt. So that would encompass the disabled hunters. That would encompass all the other hunts that they have, which I support, because especially the disabled, the veterans, the hunt, have that as the ability in that 2 day window for everybody to start the season off, to get out in the woods and have an opportunity to do that. But it's 2 days, and the destruction that you'll see in those 2 days would be minimal if all these other things work, and you put this together. I don't see that being a huge destruction, and it's a heated topic. And I'm going to just say this is before I had kind of a closed mind about the youth hunt, and I'm opening my mind on that because a lot of you guys that reach out to me, a lot of folks that despise the youth hunt. I get it. I get it. But I think what you'll see is I think that's another one of those things that what the benefit that we would gain by not having it, the worst part would outweigh that tenfold. So that's a thing I will touch on there. And then while we're talking about it, so the gun hunts we have the 2 days there, and then so all of those special hunts would be all into one. And then obviously we have a couple week gap, and then we start the bow hunt. And then the bow hunt is able to run until October 1st to January 1st. One of the things inside of that is you'll hear is the topic of the crossbows is in these regulations. To me, I am not like I touched on before. I'm not I don't say that I used to not. I'll just come right out and say that I just didn't agree with the crossbow connection at all, because there is so much ability, and it's like being a sports player in a different sport. You can be great at one, good at another, and then some sports just aren't for people, and that's where vertical bow hunting comes in. It's an all year effort, and taking that crossbow, my look was always taking that crossbow was kind of doesn't take a lot. I can sight a crossbow in, and you can stand shoulder to shoulder with 5 other guys and hand it to them, and they can all shoot the crossbow. So to me, it took that out of there. Now there's a place for them. The place that I think there is the crossbow hunt is for anybody under the age of 16 and anybody over the age of 60. So by doing that, you're not saying that crossbows are bad. You're not saying that you can't hunt with a crossbow. But I seriously think that that is a time period that if you're a bow hunter and you're able to get out ahead of the mass of the gun hunters, that is a way to do that. And it's not that it's unfair, because we could say that the gun hunters, the bow hunters could say that the gun season's too long and it kills too many deer, and there's nothing left to bow hunt in the late season. So what I'm saying with that, it kind of goes hand in hand. So that's one of the things that I really encourage people to look at. I think, and like I said, they have their purpose. I'm not the guy that says that they should be used everywhere and everybody should be able to use them. I think that it's a disability great thing, an aid, a weapon. And I also believe that if you're over the age of 60, you've done your time and you deserve to be able to be a little bit more comfortable and maybe have the opportunity to stay a little bit warmer in a box blind where sometimes maybe you can't use the vertical bows. And as the old timers say, let us young bucks go out and try to get that done with a vertical bow. And I think you'll have a respect thing there. But I think right now when you just blend everybody together, it creates such drama, and that drama came from you're looking back at it when it was recurves, and it went to, and that was before my time, but recurves going to compounds, and so there's always that. But I think what the disconnect is there's not enough education on it, and you start taking away from each portion that folks really looked forward to, such as the muzzleloader hunt. we did away with that in the southern part of the state. We're able to use long rifles, and now it's an extended gun hunt. So there's not that sought after time period. I seriously know folks in the Upper Peninsula that may have hunted maybe a couple of days during the gun season, but they loved and looked forward to the muzzleloader season. And thankfully, they're not affected by that new law. But now that they've got that law in the southern part of the state, will that law continue north? And I hope not. That's been talked about. So the gun season is one thing that needs to be, and I put an eyeball on that and really dig deep. So all together in the state, you'd have a 14-day gun season, and then you would have that break, and then we would have the first week of December. We would have a 4-day muzzleloader season, and that would take us into that. So we'd have 18 days total of gun season in the entire state. So that's my opinion, and I really think that's just another piece of the puzzle that would fit into the success to get Michigan where it needs to be. So where does that leave our public ground hunting, our public ground and our public ground hunters? Where does that leave them? I am a public ground hunter. I have been for quite some time now. Growing up, I can admit that we didn't hunt public ground because we had a lot of private ground. So if there's anybody out there that is aware of that issue, it's me. And it's a struggle, but I can honestly tell you, there is no more sense of achievement in the whitetail woods than hunting and capitalizing, being successful on a deer of any age class, especially being able to harvest a mature deer on public ground, especially in the state of Michigan or any high pressure state. You're not only hunting the deer, you have to sort through the mentality of different hunters, the movement of different hunters, and it gives you that sense of gratitude when it's all said and done. Is it a struggle? Yes, it is. The further you go north in the state, it makes it even harder. You go to the UP, folks hunt for years and years and years and years, 20 years maybe, without, maybe it's because they haven't seen or pulled the trigger on something that they wanted. Not that there's not deer in those areas, but where does all this tie into public ground hunting? That's a good point, and the answer that I can give to the best of my ability, my knowledge is this: if you choose to hunt public ground, and or you're forced to hunt public ground, let's say because you can't afford to purchase private land, or you just can't simply find land to lease. The funding's not there to lease it. The ground's not available in a lot of the state to lease. Like the people in other states, such as like the state of Illinois or Iowa, the hunter numbers are so far lower than what's available per hunter per acre, if you will, that connection, that it's pretty easy to find something to hunt if you're a resident. Now, if you're a non-resident trying to lease ground out of state, then you have the hurdle to get over that you're from somewhere else. And they kind of frown on that because they're not sure where you're at in that. A person in Illinois, a landowner in Illinois, often ask. I've been there. I've been trying to lease those farms as an outfitter at times, and they often ask, "Hey, who's going to be hunting it? What are they going to be harvesting?" And the reason that is because they want to keep what they have going at a certain platform or a certain age structure. So then they can guarantee that if you don't go through with your lease for the following year, a couple years after, they have proof that what's on there so they can lease it to other folks. It's a huge source of income for folks down there in the Midwest. And I'm sure there's some of you watching that maybe lease your ground out or lease ground too. But on the public side of it, it's easier for folks outside of the state of Michigan, outside of a high pressure state. We're just blessed that it's hard for them to get land. So we're just blessed enough to be able to have the opportunity to hunt great public ground. There's some awesome public ground, very close to wherever anybody lives in the state of Michigan, whether you're in the southern part of the state, way more of it up here and to the north. But it kind of goes back to the discontent in the hunter hunter shaming. Is private land hunters need to respect public land hunters, and once you make that connection, one, that everybody's on the same team, then that kind of mends itself. But there's so much that the public ground hunters ruin the private ground hunting, and the private ground hunters don't like the public ground hunters. That feud has been going on for years. But if you're all on the same, if there's no APR influences, there's no state mandates that tells you what you have to harvest or what you cannot harvest, then it's your prerogative to go out and try to tweak your skills against everybody else out on public ground. Maybe is it because we have so much of the public ground? Maybe is it an idea that we should look at in certain areas? And there are some, these already over at Saginaw. I know there's a couple of them. I'm not sure if there's any in the UP, but do we have enough land mass area that the state can take an area and say, okay, this deal in here, this is the check-in station. Out the outside of this, there's a convenience store. This is the check-in station on the outside. If you harvest an animal, a buck in that area, he has to be a certain size or a certain point, and then they can kind of focus the attention to make that a sought-after situation to bring some more business into those areas, like we talked that goes on out west. Can we have that? I think we have the land available to do that. Do I want to see the entire state on go to that on state ground or public ground? No, I do not. Never. But that is something that the private ground hunter needs to step up and acknowledge about the public ground hunter, about the stuff that they face. And it's not the same. If you think that hunting public ground or private ground is such an ease, the private ground hunter has way more expense, has way more hard-earned sweat equity as far as money out of pocket to hunt deer. To make that happen on private ground, and the public ground hunter has way more legwork and brain to get that same age structure of deer, because you're hunting pressured deer that there's not very many, and there might be some out there, but there's not very many spots in a private ground setting where your neighbors would have to extremely trespass and really make chaos in your area, in your neighborhood, for you to experience what public ground hunters experience every day. I'm one of those people, and I don't hunt it every day, but when I do have the opportunity to hunt it, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, and I respect that about that, because I'm able to do that, and I do that for a reason. I do that to keep me humble on hunting in general, especially in the state of Michigan. I also do it because there's some great potential out on public ground. But so that's my feeling towards public ground. Not having the mandate would release people to do what they feel like they need to do to feed their families out on public ground. They pay taxes on it. It's not your ground. It's not my ground. That's our ground. And if you want to experience that, that's fine. If you don't want to experience that, just don't take the path of destroying someone else's efforts. And that might be the only spot that they have to hunt. So there's one of the cures that folks think, because of other state influences, that has worked. There's some thoughts that maybe it's the answer is one buck tag. If we can't control everything on an APR and it's not working fast enough, maybe we need to think about one buck tag. Now, there again, I appreciate the effort to get our state to be what it should be for a lot of us that love to do it. But when you have to look at it this way. You have to look at a one buck tag. I'm not a fan of the one buck tag. A lot of you guys that follow, a lot of my clients in general, they'll know that is because of this. You know, a family that owns 10 acres. Is it lawful, or is it right to tell them that they can only harvest one deer? That would probably be enough. One tag would be enough for someone that owns 10 acres, 20 acres, 40. You could debate that topic of maybe that's enough that's all they need on those amount of acreage. But what happens as a general rule when you own 80, you own a 120, you own 320, you own a section 660? Then you have stepped up because of your plan, because of your financial availability. You have stepped up to that and worked. Maybe it's generations. Maybe that was handed down. Maybe it's a corporate deal. Maybe it's a hunt club. where you have joined something like that, and you have the availability to hunt better, or because of larger acreage, and you're only allowed to shoot one buck. I don't think that there's a blanket that we can throw over everybody on a one buck tag to make that happen. I think what the answer is, guys, is this is my opinion. So what is the cure? I think, in my opinion, is the answer is to make it available for hunters in the state of Michigan to kill 2 bucks, but you have separate tags. So you have an archery tag and you have a gun tag. You don't have a gun tag for every gun season, or you'd have 10 gun tags now in the state of Michigan, which is something that needs to get, in my opinion, needs to get controlled. Not because I'm an avid bow hunter, because I'm a hunter. I'm a gun hunter, I'm a bow hunter, I'm a muzzleloader hunter, I'm a hunter. I'm not saying that gun hunting is bad and bow hunting is great. I love bow hunting, but I'm a hunter. So in my world, I would be able to harvest 2 bucks, or have a chance to harvest 2 bucks, because I'm a bow hunter and a gun hunter, so I would have 2 tags. Drawing a draw is not because of the mass amount of numbers that we have in the state of Michigan. I don't think that's right, or I don't think that's the approach that we need to look at as a draw, as far as a resident gun tags. That's been talked about. I think it's an option that you have to give the availability out to the hunting public to have a chance to harvest 2 bucks. If you don't, if you aren't a bow hunter, then you will, you have an opportunity, you shoot 1 buck. So that eliminates a bunch of those numbers. But you have to give that availability, you have to give that chance, because now in this world, guys, maybe you could say, well, bow hunters have a disadvantage. In this world today, bow hunters don't have a disadvantage because of the law that's set on the books in a lot of states now with the crossbows. I mean, whether you love crossbows or you hate them, I think they have their place, but I don't use one myself. Maybe I will at some point when I'm not able to do that, to shoot a vertical bow. But there's no disadvantage to a bow hunter anymore. So if you elect to do that, you would still have the chance to hunt, fill 2 tags. That's my thoughts on that, is how to cure that, and then you leave that up to the hunting public to be comfortable. You leave them up to what they want to shoot, they harvest. And because of this year, if you start looking back, of course there's no statistic that shows this or number or whatever, but if you go back, like the Michigan Hunting Nation site, which Curtis and the guys do a great job on that, controlling, putting some stuff up, promoting some, trying to keep this discontent and the hunter shaming under control. So kudos to them, to those guys. You go to the Michigan Buck Poll site, all those spots where you can see what people have hunted or harvested. You go in there, guys, and you start looking around, and you start looking at how many immature bucks that were harvested with a gun, and it's a lot. It's not, as a bow hunter, it's hard to think. We often think, well, if you just took that away, and your chances of harvesting 2 bucks with a bow or 2 bucks with a gun are slim to none. There's a lot of folks out there that harvest two bucks with a bow, or they harvest 2 bucks with a gun. So if you give them the opportunity, it can only be one or the other. That thought process then leads into, okay, I have 1 archery tag. Then is that the animal that I really want to harvest with that archery tag? And if someone harvests that deer, that they have 1 archery tag, and they choose to shoot that animal, and that's the one that they want to put on their wall or in their freezer for them or their family, then that cures all of this. Then that's their chance. And then we can all promote each other, because we're all still hunters. And then if it's a rifle, then he hunts that there. You can go other state influences. You can go to the state of Illinois. You can go to the state of Iowa, and I'll talk on the platform kind of, or the topic here of Illinois in a minute, about what I have seen there work. But when you start, you give them the opportunity to do it, and then if they don't want to, then that's up to them. Then you can't say that the hunters in the state of Michigan weren't able to hunt or harvest 2 bucks. Where do the doe tags come into that? I think that's a per region area. but I believe that is something that has to be educated on, controlling a herd per farm, because as this whole habitat management thing connects to herd numbers, connects to mature bucks versus does. I've never been one to say that the entire lower peninsula should be allowed to have 10 doe tags. I think it needs to be a situation where you buy a combo tag. But if you want to buy a combo tag, one is an archery tag, one's a gun tag, and you get two for every two of those tags. You get 2 doe tags, and then if your area, per the NRCS and the DNR, giving them credit where credit is due, they can control some numbers that, okay, this county has higher deer numbers than this county, and if that is because of car deer accidents or whatever, then they need to give out more deer or doe tags. In some areas, can you afford to lose 4 does? No. On some properties, but my 12 acres here, no. The 500 acres that's just to the east of me over the fence, yes. So that is a per area, per farm, hunter mentality, hunter management side of it that has to come in, and that all comes with education. Is there still the hunter out there that's not going to appreciate that, or to inside of your area that you're trying to manage, and they're going to kill a bunch of does with those tags because they're available, and you don't agree with that? Is that going to happen? Yeah, that's going to happen, but that's their choice. It's something that if you don't want that to happen, then there's ways to cure that. There's ways to, if you want to be in an area where you can strictly manage for mature bucks, and you don't have to be, you don't have to worry about losing a lower age class, a lower age class of bucks. Your opportunity is out there to advance yourself into an area that can be done. Start looking around where these cooperatives are, where it's working, where people actually are doing that and managing, and put yourself in that. Buy some ground that attaches to it, lease a farm that attaches to it, join a hunt club that attaches to it, whatever the case is, or put your property in it, or step to the plate and go around and start connecting the dots with your neighbors if that's what you want to do. Fact of the matter is, guys, it's not for everyone. My business, Habitat Improvement, if you're watching this, you're obviously probably interested in habitat improvements, or you're interested in deer management, or killing, trying to have the chance of harvesting bigger mature bucks, and that's great. But there's also a lot of folks that are on this channel, believe it or not, and I respect that are on there that don't have no intention of ever killing a mature buck. They just want to kill the buck that's best for them. So when I go on these properties and I take all this into consideration, I've asked all these questions, and I put my best foot forward, or what I think could really happen or really work for this state. I design a property that you are able to harvest a buck. I design them all so that you're in the right spot to be able to harvest a mature buck. If you want to harvest any buck out of that stand, that's your choice. And you know what, guys? If you've seen this year, I posted pictures from gentlemen that were, or clients in general, that were shooting 1.5-year-old bucks, and I'm just as thankful for the people that sent me pictures of my clients that are shooting 4.5- and 5-year-old bucks in and out of state. And that is something that you don't see from a lot of people in my shoes. People in my shoes aren't willing to accept defeat. They aren't willing to accept the fact that we live in a state that we are going to battle this from here on out. If you don't want to battle this, you have options. You have, like I said, you have the quickest way to cure it is to move out of state, to go to a state that has what you feel is a different law, or a different acreage, or a different amount of hunters, and that's where you want to go. That's your choice. But what I'm going to tell you is, if you move to the state of Illinois, or you move to the state of Iowa, you're still going to have neighbors, no matter where you're at in like the state of Illinois. You're still going to have neighbors that harvest what they want to harvest. You're still going to have neighbors that harvest what might not be up to your standards. So then what do? Do you go and create a bunch of discontent there on a state that's harvest mature deer harvest, outweigh a lot? I mean, you go into Iowa, I can show you time and time again that this happens all over the country. The reason that Michigan is not what they say on the map as far as deer hunting has little, if any, to do with the heart and the passion of the Michigan deer hunter. We all want to shoot big bucks. We all want to hang mature big bucks on the wall. But there's a lot of folks out there that if they're presented a chance with a 1.5 or 2-year-old buck, they're just as happy. And that ties to this whole deal as far as it all stems back with the number one topic here. Is a way to cure all this is to go back to our roots and go back to a hunting public where the power is. Because here's a perfect example, guys, and we'll close with this. Here's a perfect way to look at this. Is this year should explain this to a lot of folks that are maybe like, well, does he really know what he's talking about or not? This year, you look back on all the mandates that they're trying to drive down their throats. They're trying to make everybody live on the same wavelength. And it all resorts back to what we're dealing with a hunting community. You want to know why there's so much discontent in politics? It's because of big government. You want to know why that there's so much discontent in deer hunting? It's because there's big government. So I really ask you to think about that way, think that way of it, and then hopefully we can start piecing the puzzle. It's tough. It's tough in the state of Michigan, guys, but you have to be willing, like I said, you have to be willing to admit defeat. If you live in the state of Michigan, you are going to battle this from the time from now until the end of time. And the best way to accept that is to just accept defeat and start picking away at it little by little on different ways other than force feed big government policies. We have a chance right now, like I said, to voice your opinion. I really recommend that if this generates with anybody, or if you believe it or not, or if you appreciate this or not, but I'm just here to tell you, to answer some questions that have been asked time and time again. And right now, voice your opinions with them. And maybe one of the ideas that you have are different than mine, and maybe it'll work, and maybe it'll get to the state level as far as the DNR, or the federal level with the NRCS, and you're able to reach out and change some things. That's how you put a state on the map. That is how you do it. You do it with the proper steps at the proper time, and now is one of those times that we have an opportunity to maybe change some things here. So those are my outlooks as far as APR, as far as the 1 buck tag, as far as any tag requirements. I think that's how I think that we get to a different spot than where we are now, slowly but surely. And the ones that want to do it, great. And the ones that don't want to do it, that's great too. But at the end of the day, we're all still hunters. Thanks, guys.